Welcome to another interview from OpenConf this year. We are going to be live in November 10 and 11 from University of West Attica. And this year with us speaking will be Dave. Hello, Dave.
Hi, Despina.
Hi. So I read your bio, and you've mentioned that you are a semi-retired software development consultant with more than 38 years of professional experience. So is semi-retired means that you are completely retiring soon or just retiring from consultancy? And I would like to tell us, maybe you can tell us a little bit about yourself and maybe your career so that that the audience get to know you more.
Okay, well, to answer the first question first, my usual brief explanation of semi retired is that I'm chasing only part time work and not chasing very hard. And as for retiring soon, yes, that is the idea. Mostly, I'm waiting for my wife to retire. She's got a few more years to work before she can retire with a full pension. She's working for one of the few places that still has a pension plan. As for the rest of my career, if you do the math, you figure I started in 1985. If you want to ignore a summer job I had during school. And I've worked in a wide variety of industries and languages and so forth. A lot of the languages that people use these days, in fact, the ones I've been using recently, weren't even invented back then. Even C++ wasn't really a thing yet. So these days, I've been working mostly in Ruby, trying to break into Elixir. You really can't get away from JavaScript if you do anything that touches the web at all. I've been doing a little bit of Python recently. And I'll spare you the list of all the other stuff that I've done in the past, with the exception of, the first 25 years or so was mostly plain old C.
Mhm.
Any more specific questions, I'll be happy to answer.
So you just went your career through many languages, and at the end, what you decided to do, since you have all this experience, you went to consultancy.
Yes, well, this is technically my second foray into consultancy. I first tried to go into at least freelancing, and we can argue about the difference between freelancing, consulting, contracting, and so forth. And I tried to do that in 1990, and well, just barely missed the web becoming a thing. So I was harder for work to find. Work was harder for me to find. I went back to the real job world. And fast forward to 2011, I decided, okay, I'm getting sick of the 9 to 5 rat race. Let me give this another try. And this time it worked.
It worked.
Yes, especially since I had since developed a lot more modern skills. I had learned Ruby by then, including Ruby on Rails. And of course, that was a big thing for uh, minimum viable products, and even later on in the life of some products
Mhm.
for web applications. So that's most of what I've done since then.
But okay, so you chose to be self-employed. Do you
Yeah.
have any advice that you would like to give to maybe some a young person just striving? He's trying to pave their own future as self-employed.
Yes, the two big things I would say is, first off, your income will probably not be anywhere near as stable as it is as a regular employee. And a lot of people just don't really have the stomach for that. So either make sure you do, or make sure you have a good cash cushion that you can spend while you figure it out, whether you have the stomach for that. And secondly, it's not all about doing the actual work. Just in our case, the software engineering. You have to learn the business side of things too, not to such a level of expertise that can optimize your tax strategy and whatnot yourself, but at least enough that you can outsource it to somebody whose specialty that is without either leaving jobs undone or getting completely ripped off. You have to know what they're talking about when they offer you their services for a given price. I could go on and on about all the other stuff I've learned in the course of being self-employed, but I think those are the two most important.
Yeah. Do you recommend, but at the end, do you recommend it?
I recommend that most people at least give it a try. If you've got a decent cash cushion and decide, okay, this isn't for me, at least you can use up some of that cash cushion and not go broke before you go back to the regular 9 to 5
Jobs.
permanent employment.
Yeah. So your speech for OpenConf is about genetic algorithms, which actually is something that was inspired by the natural evolution process. So, uh, what, since it was inspired by the natural evolution process, how do you predict that genetic algorithms is going to evolve in the next years? What future do you see for them?
As far as most of us professional developers go, I don't see all that much changing. It's already, fairly obscure and I think is likely to remain so. But since more and more people are learning to code, I think people in other lines of work are going to try using code to come up with some solution to their problems. And sometimes they'll use a genetic algorithm, sometimes not. And sometimes when they don't, they may come to us and ask, oh, this thing's running kind of slow. Can you see if I'm doing something wrong here? And if they're not using a genetic algorithm, chances are they're trying to do precise calculation or brute force or something to some fairly intractable problem, like a traveling salesman visiting 500 cities, or a knapsack problem deciding whether or not to take any of 10,000 things. And that's exactly where genetic algorithms really shine, where you can take a fairly straightforward approach, but it's just too tedious for a human to sit through. And we'll take a look at it and say, aha, I can code up a genetic algorithm to solve this for you. Or if they're fairly well versed in coding themselves, maybe teach them the concept of genetic algorithms. They can maybe watch the recording of my talk and figure out how to do it themselves.
Yeah.
So as far as solving problems in not computer science, but in software typical of what we professional developers do, I don't see much change coming. But in terms of solving problems from other domains, usually on a one-off basis, I think it's going to spread.
Okay, it's going to spread to other domains. So that's your prediction.
Yes.
Great. Okay, so can you share us a few words from your speech, but not give away a lot? And also, what are your thoughts about your first time participating in? I don't know if you have ever been into a conference in Greece, a technical conference in Greece, and if there is something in the agenda, if you have had a look that draw your attention.
Okay, I'll try and remember those.
I will remind you also.
First, something from my talk. Well, the main takeaways are that genetic algorithms are probably a lot simpler than most people think. They tend to hear complicated term like that and think, oh, that must be hairy. No, it's pretty simple. It's just an initialization and then a cycle of fairly simple steps until one step says, okay, we're done. And basically what they are is a category of shortcuts to find a good enough solution to some problem. Like taking the example of a traveling salesman visiting 500 cities, it's not necessarily going to come up with absolutely the most efficient route, but it'll come up with a pretty good one that will be more efficient than the vast majority of the others. And you can probably define some threshold for what you consider good enough. And what was the next
The
question?
next one, have you ever been into a technical conference here in Greece, or it's your first time?
Actually, I have been to a conference not only in Greece, but specifically in Athens once before. Last September, I was at Vox Days Athens, which
Great.
is now DevOps Greece.
Yeah, yeah.
And I had a really good time. It was
Okay, great.
rather
So you have the
warm.
experience already of a Greek conference. I hope, and we hope that you have the same or even better experience with us. And do you happen to view our agenda and maybe something, another speech draw your attention?
Yes, I saw actually three things that stuck in my memory. Number one, the one about passwordless infrastructure. One of
Yeah.
the things that I did, one of the industries that I spent a good bit of time in was computer security. So there's this general adage that security times convenience equals a constant. So if we can get rid of trying to remember passwords and make it more convenient and still be at least about as secure, maybe even more, because we won't be, writing down a password on a sticky note under our keyboard and things like that. That would be, a big win-win all around. Then another one that caught my eye was the one on quantum technologies. That's just, a fascinating topic in general. If we can make significant progress on, various scientific pursuits. The other one that's been just out of reach for decades that comes to mind would be fusion. So if we can get our little Mr. Fusion powered quantum computers, that would unleash huge computing potential. And the third one, there was something much more practical. What was it? Oh, yes. Quantifying technical debt management. That would be of especially practical interest that I could use with my consulting clients, because one of the main things I do is consulting on quality, how you can write more high quality code and what that even means faster. So if I can present a case to some managing leader and tell them, okay, if you take this approach, you're going to wind up with effectively a technical debt loan of 20%. Oh, that's just way too high. Don't know about in Greece, but at least here in the States, pretty much only credit cards are allowed to charge that high. Whereas some other approach might result in an interest rate of 2%. Yeah, that's a pretty good deal.
Okay, great. So thank you very much, Dave, for having this time to discuss with us, to get to know you. And we really hope and can wait to have you here. You're going to be here, I think, November 10 or 11, I don't remember. When
Well,
you,
they're both days.
yeah, we're going to be there. And so we have many themes this year. We have AI, we have tech leadership, we have DevOps, we have security, microservices, quantum tech. We're going to be in the University of West Attica. So thank you very much and see you there at OpenConf.
All right, thank you. And
Thank
look
you.
forward to seeing you there.